Om Aho. Lama Lakwisala so on the Lakwilaki by a community. There is a some good Latin, the Kazakashila or La, the tone of the Risha Tangdang, Mother Teras or Tail, the Chosibo Jigger. The Tiwan Haman Yamsa Long, the Tara, Satil Gatorchibo, the Rimatan, Tetamchilla, Soachibo Yogi, the Trita, Tilla Lakwasa. This is Lakwasa, she was the flight from Chordin. Flat Tam Chicken Chord, sorry, Flat Tam Chicken Chord me, or my right Shibala. Samaki so can answer on the Shibata, Tia Nibati, Ranga, or Shibakin, she, Nibaka, Tiwak, Sinjalam, the Chowak, Tiwak and Jawachimbo Yuri, Flat Tiwachibo Cha and Yuri. This Tira, Nana, Sapasari with it. Flash battery, Flash Chomi, the Sapasari, the Sapapari, the Yomari. Ishiji Nishiori. Ishiji Nishiori, Yona Te, Timbo Yobari. Dabu Kotor, Sterum Satin, the song Yori. The Ni Shipan Nam Dorje, the Ni Machinery, Yidam La Shiva Dublin, Taribo Taro is. The Ni Shipan Nam Jor with the Trun, the need of Georgia. Talk to you can't Johnson. The need she said, she did what some say she got a judge. They can't get lot of red. They she go a tongue can't read that you did Chiboja, the watchable yore. You did Chiboja, Nancy becoming Kachig, Savajula, Sasson says, Scata de China, the lead Judas Sajula, Saju Tipolatory, Namjoni, Ka, Ze Kakagore. Ben Savage Jula, Pavze Kakagore. Ming Matanga, this one be. The Juba Jula, from Zen and the Shanga, Datanga, Jang, Peter the Java Jang, Savage Jula, Pavze, Jama, the Saju, Pavze, Kakayore. The Latini Tami, oh, Tasha Kakayasari, Tasha Tilsi, totally in John. That my was all Kandara, runs the tongue. Visit our child, Kandara, flat along semi penetrable, flat along semi and Java, the longer long semi the Takashi, some of the mental water, the thing large, that a lot of trust of what it teaches the Mary. Somehow, don't she bought a you the number Juliet, some of the tongue to go away. They have the Changa, the tongue of Yeni, Yimbar Shipati. Kandaranke, Teta long to the river, means Tongo, the Chibal, there is not a chase you, Flakacaret, today a cacaras, they love her, rather tell me. Oh, the Saju hat of the Lady Mundum, that you somebody. Southern has in down a step of joy, Taka, the flatter on the same Avatala. The Tikachimori, the duty of the Rita, Saju, Judy, Ted Torta, Judy Chiboje, the Choa Kaka, the Dokuyore, they duty, Mujid, Joa Atishatri, Bullet the Dish of a Gallery, Rotary cheese of Bogotry, Torture.
So it says, I pray to the Guru, the exalted deity. And so this exalted deity, so what is the exalted deity? So for some people, if they have a certain Yidam deity that they are connected to from previous lives, then when they see a tanka, for example, an image of the deity, or they hear the mantra of the deity, then a very special, a strong feeling arises in them. And that's a sign that they have practiced the Yidam deity in past lives. So as a sign, again, as a strong feeling, again, kind of again, an attraction toward that deity arises. And that is a sign that this is one's exalted or favored deity. And so this exalted deity or supreme deity, who really is the supreme deity. In reality, there is no higher or supreme and lower, inferior deity at all. All the deities really are the same. But then, whichever deity one personally practices, it generates a special experience of the deity's omniscience and the deity's power and the deity's blessings come through the deity's love. And then through that experience that one gains through the practice, one develops a great love for that particular deity. But so then from this perspective, the deity becomes exalted to oneself. But so generally speaking, it's not that there are some deities that are exalted, superior, and then some deities that are inferior at all. So it really depends on one's own experience of the deity, and is not really dependent on the deity itself. And so we do speak about wisdom gods, wisdom deities, and worldly deities. But even that is not so certain, actually. Actually, Jamgyal Kongtrul had said in instructions on the generation stage. So he said that someone who doesn't understand the nature of the Yidam deity and practices a wisdom god, they actually are practicing a worldly god. Whereas a yogin who understands the nature, the true nature of the Yidam deity, and they, even though they might practice a frightening god in charnel grounds and so forth, a worldly god may generate the experience of a wisdom god. So a worldly god may become a wisdom god from the perspective of that yogin who had freed the 6 senses and so forth by practicing the deity. So it all depends on the power of one's own mind, the way one sees it from the way one practices the deity. And so that is also, this statement is also related to the 4 classes of Tantra. So there is a fourfold division of Tantras. And so when we, for example, engage only in the action Tantra, which is the lowest, the first Tantra, there is a separate set of rules that is being laid out. Then in the Yoga Tantra or the Anuttara Yoga Tantras, the higher Yoga Tantras. For example, in the Action Tantra, the lowest Tantra, one would not add the vase substances into the vase, but would keep them separate. So those 5 medicinal liquids or substances are being kept separate. And then once one moves on to the performance, the second level of the tantras, then one has the 5 meats and the 5 nectars, together with the vase substances, and on top of that also some blessing pills. So then in one tantra class lower, the action tantra, it is said that's not permissible. Those substances of the vase have to be kept separate. And so then when one sees these set of rules, then one may think that, well, that means that the deities, there are different kind of deities that you practice in different ways. But this really is not the case at all. It is practiced in different, the manner of practice, a difference comes about due to one's own mental capacity, the practitioner's mind, and has nothing to do really with the deity itself. So the way we practice the deity is dependent on our state of mind. And so actually, from one perspective, if one's mind still has a dualistic grasping and one just hears the names of the 5 nectars and the 5 kinds of flesh, then immediately one will feel repulsed and think that a very bad feeling arises, and one thinks that that's something really gross. So So then this is not how one should see things when one progresses it along the classes of Tantra. So that's why there's a separation that is being made. Actually, the 5 meats and the 5 nectars are really necessary in all the classes of Tantra. And so their purpose is to recognize what is the primordial nature of things. And also that through one's practice, one transforms these into medicinal, like nectar-like substances. And if one makes this separation and thinks that these are gross substances and so forth, and there's a separation between the different tantric classes, and that's really a great mistake. So the point that is being made really is that there is no separate deity. So it's basically when people kind of question the deity and the samaya substances that are being used in the different rituals, they think that this is a separate deity and this is a different kind of substance that has to be used for that kind of practice and so on. Then that's really a really grave misunderstanding of the deity practice. So actually, it all depends on one's level of practice, but not at all on the class of Tantra. And these substances are used in all the classes of Tantra. But because of our different mental capacity, the 4 classes of Tantra are slightly practiced in different ways. So there are different sadhanas, different ways of practicing them. But anyways, this kind of question arose in the old days when Lord Atisha was invited to Tibet, and the Lotsawa Rinchen Sangpo asked the question.
다지지 전부저를 저런 조금 송로래 옛날 때 저기 이제 토리 배소리 시 망보리 막 배소리 시 특별히 나가서 상하 인마도 이제 다 총리를 공소 대전이 지금 지금가 사마게 계른데 계른을 저용나서다 계른 탐지가 로르드는 나도서 가려야 되는 다다 사와 takwa tibasan tiron khasani karene tinon to yore khasawa sawa takwa tibasan so sawa dinatri slati kuji chalo yongso tawati ta thakana tibana je semna lami shargo yore ti sawa de changje de kashi de doda 이지 무지 곰 토고도 다 사도 자도 다 저지 치모도 레지 곰 토고도 어떻게 저래 대야 말이 대라대 파티를 tinge sai kujin chalo tamje go to model de takpa de de tamje leje de tonda dore dok senjin tamje ko wa dong dore chelde de yongdi de ta shalung de sawa de na basa lam de don la flati sema shayunga de na basa wa de dine namda tin ba de ko ji chalo sa chi re de sa mo ta kalina san na to shayung de ni bo la de ta sa 사다탑을 빼는 가장 대선 독선제를 두고 dorje 그 사고 똑만 좀 내가 봐봤다 때 라탑제티 이제 30 탑제티 동다들 요래 이 답받침 봐서 이 다들이 그래 그지 차로 탐지를 때 답받침 받을 파르도 선바토 또 just 봐 제용 거래 때 용진 탐지들 심라면 샤 어때때리 왜나 사도 파르도 선바토 다래 때들이 또 들어요. 추가래 되잖아. 다제도 들이 또 잠을 오는데 라는 것들 레비 자와를 나가라는 당 이제 손타고 나 샤는 거래. 벨테랑 이거 샤는 거래. 도르서 봐서는 샬리니 마도는 자손아 이거 샤는 거네. 벨데 대탑제라 벨 선조왕가나 카르테도 용티나 이거 샤는 거죠. 또 지나가는 샬라니 마도 셔트랑 그 생고 벨에 대를 예마자는 자손나가 정제도 가서 대랑게 샘데 셔드 베테레 대를들이 다디 밀 30제 치고 제를 니게강이 다디 메바 차서는 돈이 다디니 메와 하고서는 들때 샘들 오사와들 콘테지와 샘들을 하고로래 나가 샘들 그냥 콘테지가 잡도데 그래서 사자 치고들 살아들 또 많이 시켜요래. 살아도 또 많이 강리들 나지 님의 독사 다 대하고래. 또 많이 체롱 저러 나지 님의 독사는 배 세부배 남가서는 남가라 오 남가니 고삼 거래 나지니네 남가라 니도 가서 남가라 님의 독사 하고서는 또 고아를 들지 사죠. 라고 샘도 남가 체비라 들이 죽을 놈도 저 봐야 때문에서 말이 대하고서는 들이 샘들이 하고 그래. 대하고들이 남바 살와세 다지걸 남도랑이 지정을 대탐지 남지 세부랑 살고 대탐지 니뭐 바탐지 실전서 와랑 대탐지 살물에 다지 다지니 오늘들 마음이 베들 로르도 참을 어제 독들들 민소한테 시가라 좋대 다고시 감차로 오 생감 로르도 참아들한 거 생구랑 미마음이 제발에서 하고는 다다바지 바지 तेरे तारी जे तेरे ngajar baso zo ngajar ba de ha ko so so तेरे ta pa tari de je sem na to tham je lam de se ba ti ke तेरे ta pa tari de to tham je nam to ni mo re ngajar ba ta che shu re तेरे ngajar ba ta nga de sem na kare yo re de na ben o ta la de pe ta che bo re de pa ti ka she la do ta che bo re sa 내 좀제 비서 대파 매서 고거래시 자 우리 가서 치고 가서 루바 가서 랍소 제 랍소 그래 별로 사지 가요 그래 사지 가야 돼요 오 다다 통화 요말 어따티 따치도 고거래시 저도 고발래시 대도 라고 죽기 가는 때도 따로 받대로 뭐내 좀제 비서 남니 그래 되게 지수는 어따티 대발래시 자 소야마도 왔어 야물 저도 접처도 거스 접처도 무슨 일이 저도 내래시 점처지 도망은 그러다 또야 점처지 싸치고 말이 점처 운에지래 다 매번 동도 진짜 코대기가 차고 점처 치시대 내 여기 싸워를 하고 새로 쓸 거라 뭐야 파설 말이 중도 진짜 섬로 떠는들이 들이 세상이 중도를 띠중도라는 거 먹으려고 그러면 다부치 용din라 ramji tapo chidlo somni sawa gapa yiso tato chidino songore teto rang lo mato loto tamchi rang dabdo mane yi dabto mane saje te ma ka se me patna manam do do chote na zabal chado mare pete chid me pato to mare te kare me pato go ched desi to me pato yo mare te saje chi ba ched desi go mare te te namda ti ma ngajarti ba kale o 사지 사와랑 센스 그걸 못 지라 있어 자게 트라트와리 따따다 사지 시바드 빼바 뭐도 따치 모르게 저 가리지 사지 사와사 족셈 사족 셈니 송아리 서로들이 나게 나오 녀마드 사족셈 민유나 되게 사 민유 거래 되게 민소리들이 이메바데 메인데 사자 치고들 살아들 동반이래 동반이 가래 동반이 나지 니지 동거래 제 동남도 도지 조지라서我写了的 다지 니디도 마동과 도니 도크요 말이 대도를 맞았대요 오 라니라나라라라니라 나그 셈다 둘이 셈듯이 뭐 그런 남카다 그래지 뒤낭이 따라들 정말 들은지게로 라 탐지 도도도 도니 이제 손주리도 상전 오 따따따 셈을 가려도 따따 무슨 나 나온다도 나사고도 야 셈지 자서 디 가래 나한테 가래게요 나한테 나디게요도 나디가 나한테 다 나디지 야 티비를 다 세비도 피고서 세미제로 좀 공부했는데 세미제로 하고 세미 치고 차로 잠벌게 등에도 가르치고 삼리 착성들이 다 요마 다 도도잖아 들이세도 치고 차고 뒤에 오 세는 이메와 하고 산제 셈도 sen지 셈이 이미도 하고서는 오 들이들이 메인이 다다다다 다사 이치바데 이치이들 예대 요게 예시사 탑지시대 시시사 송 예들 셈 남카다 예대 요리스 셈도 예대 요리스 디 예대 요바티 내록시를 많이 잡아두면 디 셈을 내록도서 셈 남카다고 차올라 드는 코데잉을 하지 찹대요 하고를 드는 코데잉이 사와터들 사지게 소울지 동대 사지 탐치 집에 시대 사지가 셈을 내록도 들으라고 그러지 오 셈을 알아요 따따 셈 나오냐고 파요 나라테 제일라 오 땅 문제사리도 那个心到我拉里，拉用熬的吧，熬你嘛那个热的，我的朋友我今天这个今天这个，到底让心的心里热的，夜里他搞的别的拉里下的，拉我嘛他的拉我的拉嘛真了，拉嘛心的这个我让个心的这个我差不多，拉嘛的真的，我是拉嘛人家东西，也拉真的也拉人家东西。当然个跌到这里过差过，大的下过了，这一地嘛这下过，跌的这里他沙瓦他把地把生活能力，这里地把的有了，这里沙瓦他把用个让一个用过的，这里他地把的基础过来的，这里也里也把去把这里他把就是让你上去，人家我们人都过有的，也里打你是没把那说，我现在来是的就把人家。把这说送这开始，我就把这些都的查过了，查说，这人俺们都是，你是比他们上在俺托送，但是现在啥，你热的，人把七把人上，这个查了，这你把全部有的，多那个内陆的，这到韩国就可以全部有的。
So in the new Tantric system, there are the 4 classes of Tantra, and they each are explained separately. And there are many different scriptures and instructions on that, but I myself don't know how to teach according to exactly how it is spoken in the scriptures. Also, because since a young age, I have mainly habituated the practice the Nyingma system, the 4 branches of approach and accomplishment in terms of practice. And also within that practice, actually, all the 4 classes of the new Tantric system are actually complete. So again, in brief, what is the actual inner meaning of all generation stage, all deity practice? So we have said that the generation stage must consist of the 3 aspects of a clear visualization, a recollection of purity, and stability of the divine pride. And all Tantric systems, whether they're new or old Tantric systems, all are included within these 3 aspects. So first is the clear visualization. So here we visualize the deity's physical appearance, the body color and the deity's implements, the hands and legs and so forth clearly. Just as it is painted. It is just like making a mental painting of the deity. So each and every element of the deity is visualized clearly and should appear vividly in one's mind. And then some maybe take it a step too far and think that I must exactly visualize all the exact positions and lines, all the different kind of very subtle parts of the deity. Each and every one has to appear very clearly at all times. So they push themselves to this perfection. But this is also, it's not just about this actually, but the reason why we visualize the deity's form, the color, and the implements, and so on, is because of the second aspect, that is the recollection of purity. And so the reason why we visualize the deity is because each part of the deity's appearance represents a certain enlightened quality in the deity's mind. So it's not just like a physical appearance, but it all has a meaning. For example, the 6 hands of a deity may represent the 6 paramitas and so forth. So each part of the deity's appearance shows a certain way of liberating sentient beings from suffering, the beings in the 6 realms. So we need to understand that the qualities of the deity when we visualize the deity. So first, the deity appears clearly, vividly in the mind. That's the clear appearance. And then the recollection of purity is to understand that each of these elements of the deity is an antidote to a certain affliction. such as the staff, the three-pointed staff is an antidote to the three poisons, and then there is in the Vajrakhilaya practice, for example, the purba and so forth, which represents the suppression of negativity. Also, the Vajra represents that, and so forth. So each of the implements has a meaning, such as the 6 paramitas or the 10 powers of Buddha. And so as you visualize the deity, then these qualities should arise in your minds one by one. And so as you visualize, you think, oh, this means this and that means that, and so on. Like the 6 hands are a sign of the 6 paramitas, or the deity's dark blue color is a sign that represents the Dharmakaya, and so on. Or, for example, a deity may appear in 4 different colors, and that is a sign of the 4 enlightened activities. And also the deities appear in the different colors like a rainbow, just naturally. So these are not fabricated, but these qualities are primordially inherent within the mind. So again, it is just like when the sun is shining on a crystal, then the rainbow lights will naturally appear from it. Or, for example, the rainbow also is like the subtle quality of the 5 elements that just naturally then appear, manifest, without having to be fabricated. So the mind is like the crystal, and when the sun shines on the crystal, then 5 colored rainbow lights emerge from the crystal. So it is just like that with the appearance of the deity. So it is your own mind. And it is when the mind becomes free of self-grasping, and when great love and compassion arises, and from within that state of compassion and selflessness, one realizes emptiness. That is, that self and other are non-dual, and that the deity appears from this non-dual state as the luminosity of one's own mind, and that samsara and nirvana is all display of one's own mind. So from within that state, you realize that my mind pervades all of samsara and nirvana. In Mahamudra, for example, we speak about this unity of clarity and emptiness. So what does that mean? It means that you realize the non-duality of self and other. And that is something that you first have to understand. And then from that understanding, the realization of emptiness will arise just naturally. For example, when we say mind is like space, then you can analyze and think, so when you think about space, is there a duality in space? There is no duality in space. So when you understand that, you can also apply that to your mind and understand that that my mind is like space, and therefore in my mind there's no duality. Or as Milarepa had said, when you realize space and mind to be inseparable, you have actualized the Dharmakaya. So when you understand that, you have understood the essence of the mind. So that is the clear appearance of the deity. And then from within that state, if a thought arises naturally, then the thought too is just another reflection of the mind, or like it is the light radiance arising from the mind. And seeing it this way, the affliction becomes transformed into primordial wisdom, as it is nothing else but the natural radiance of the mind itself. Then, for as long as you do perceive a duality between self and other, you are in an unripe or immature state, and that leads to the appearance of the 6 realms of samsara, which are also the natural radiance of the mind. When the mind matures, then those afflictions mature into the 5 wisdoms, and then from that, naturally, the Pure Lands will manifest as the natural radiance of the mind. So also the 6 realms are all the radiance of one's own mind. The only difference now lies in having or not having matured one's mind. So that is the recollection of purity. And then third is the stability of the divine pride, and that's actually most important. And the other 2 are actually included within that. So when a thought arises momentarily, and you then you remember you come back to recollecting the purity of the deity. So the recollection of the purity is, in other words, an antidote to conceptual thinking. But now the divine pride, or this confidence of being the deity, that's really most important. So right now, how is our mind? So now we think that the deity is so precious. So somebody with great devotion may see how precious the deity is. Somebody who doesn't have any devotion may think, who doesn't know karma, may think that, oh, this is all deception, or this deity practice and so on. This is all just to deceive you. Because you say that these deities really exist in this like Pure Land and here and there, but then where really are they? Where are those lands? And like, where is the deity right now? Can you just show me the deity? And then they basically feel that, see, you can't show the deity right now, you can't see it anywhere. So it's all just all deception. It's all just a lie. And so those who don't understand karma and who are holding these very worldly views would say things like that. They do say things like that. And so then you might be persuaded and think that, oh, maybe it's true. We can't really see the deity anywhere. Where is it really? Or what they may also say is that, well, if you speak about these CDs or miraculous powers, well, if you have those miraculous powers, show them. Show me a miracle. If you are able to do that, then I believe it's real. But then actually, these ordinary siddhis, these miracles, they actually should not be displayed to others. And also, they are not that important, actually. What's the actual siddhi, or the miracle, is to see that the mind is without duality and pervades samsara and nirvana. But in any case, there are certain people who are very critical, and wherever they go, they just try to find the fault, and they say that all these practices are just deception, and it's all not true. It's just a lie, and they make fun about these people, and they say that you're all stupid. You're just following something blindly. But actually, when they think in these critical ways, seeing the fault of others is actually what obscures the mind. And also it is said by Dorje that in this way, when we see things in this critical way, then the naturally pure qualities of the holy Dharma become obscured to one's view, and therefore one falls into the mistaken view of misconceptions and wrong views. And it is these misconceptions and wrong views that actually obscure one's own mind. And it's not the fault of the religion that one is criticizing. For example, in the old days, we were told that you're not allowed to say a single Mani mantra or Mani Padme Hum. And still, even though that was prohibited, nowadays it is the Mani mantra is spread around the entire world. You can't really destroy it. Nobody can destroy the Dharma because of Buddha nature. Buddha nature cannot be destroyed. And this Buddha nature is really the essence of the Buddha's teachings. And it's also the essence of the the recollection of purity. So when we recollect purity, we always come back to pure Buddha nature. And so now for the stability or the divine pride, which is most important, Geshe Tsogyal once asked Guru Rinpoche, now there's all these many Yidam deities, all these wisdom beings. Now where do they really come from? And Guru Rinpoche replied a wisdom God arises out of bodhicitta. So all these deities arise out of bodhicitta. And whoever matures their mind by cultivating bodhicitta will mature into the deity in an uncontrived, natural way. So in the Mahamudra teachings, we speak about, as we said, this clarity and an emptiness. So what is the emptiness, really? The emptiness means the non-duality of self and other. So when we explain emptiness in the scriptures, for example, there's all kinds of divisions, like we speak about the 18 divisions of emptiness and the outer and inner aspects of emptiness and so forth. But in brief, to summarize it all, it comes down to the emptiness, the lack of inherent existence of self and another. And for as long as one has not realized that, one has not completely realized emptiness. Also, it is said in the Tantras that I myself am the deity itself is me. So that is Buddha nature, the primordial space-like nature of the mind, wherein the deity is naturally established. The deity is your Buddha nature primordially. And its nature is all-pervasive compassion. So then you realize that all the deities are like that. All the deities are this union of emptiness and compassion. So how is our mind right now? What is arising in my mind? Right now, we are thinking me. There's this I that arises. And then when you look further, where does this I, this thought of me really come from? It comes from this original self-grasping. So ultimately, this I, this ego clinging, is self-grasping. And that is remedied when we cultivate an altruistic wish to benefit sentient beings. So then you think, I am going to cultivate the four immeasurables. Then my mind will become vast. When love arises, your mind becomes vast, expansive. And then that clears away all suffering of all the beings in the universe. And so then when your mind pervades in this way, you realize that in this moment, the self is lost. There is no feeling of me as self. So when the mind becomes vast, like space, pervading all beings with compassion, then there is no more concept of a self. So this is then when you realize that then also the minds of all sentient beings and the Buddhas are non-dual. We become a Buddha when this same mind matures. And so that is the nature of the wisdom deity. So wisdom or primordial wisdom means that primordial because it has been there since beginningless time, primordial times, and wisdom because it is all-knowing. So this primordial awareness is that space-like nature of the mind that has been present since primordial times. And when I do not grasp at as self and realize the nature of the mind, it becomes like space, and it pervades all of samsara and nirvana. And so this is then also where the omniscience, the all-knowing wisdom of the Buddha comes from. It comes from a mind that pervades all of samsara and nirvana. So then understanding that in your practice, then you reflect that, so my mind is really that. I can, if I just let go of this constant thought of me, this I, then I really am the deity. That is my true primordial nature. It is just that I have become obscured by clinging to a self. Now I just let that go, and I arise as Chandrasik. I am really Chandrasik when compassion arises in me. And so in that moment, your mind is actually the deity. And so that confidence of being the deity arises based on knowing that on the level of Buddha nature, we are really not separate. The deity and myself are really not separate. And also the guru and yourself are not separate. So if you think of the guru, then you become the guru. Or if you think of the Yidam, then the mind becomes the Yidam. So if that happens, it is a sign that you really have understood this point. And you understand this point when you become free of dualistic thinking. So of these three, the clear appearance, the recollection of purity, and the stability of the divine pride is most important. And if that is held with stability, then the clarity and recollection of purity will arise naturally. And so also, like in the evening every day, we are reciting the confession of the Vajrakeaya practice, which we mentioned before. So where we say, since primordial times, primordially, you and I are indivisible, but temporarily, due to ignorance, I began to wander in samsara. So primordially, my mind and the deities' mind are one and the same. Just in between, I have become confused. Why have I become confused? It is because I am thinking that there is an I. And so that self is like an ice block. There actually is no I. And when you think of others, when you think of sentient beings, then this I is completely lost. And then my mind really is the deity. So it's essential that when we cultivate this divine pride, that we really are confident in like acknowledging what we really are, that this is my true nature. And then the power of the practice will become really, really great. So therefore, it's very important to understand this point.
왕 제때 년도 그렇고 요래 왕 제시 탐체나 세과라는데 답만 그 레슨절라 사왕가 낭자 함선절라 샤왕가 낭 샘선절라 이 소왕가 되니 내로 동고 좁아 대제서네 왕 탐체야 되리 왕절은 되고 요래 따와서 대다고 나한테는 되니다가 타토가 샘 가자 들라 코데 기우나 가다가 샘적 받아 요 말이 대요들이 돈이 이제 살랑세 발라세 사람들은 밤새랑스 얘는 랑따다 되와지 제송 돈이 냥서는 랑따지 고레스 랑따 기치 고레스 사람 시시게 배는 말에서 나랑 하사면 주제 삼제 랑따 가래 고레 그다 시작부터 봐 겁다 몸에 봐서 전나때 당에서 다 론진도 되는 민가도 그다는 소요래 대파 기타 적티사 동 선납적다 민버듯이 제 동단적다 니디나게 총든 타톡을 들으면 민사제게 타톡분들 니디요 가르치는 적되고 이야마 셀라데 출수에서 들어가 좀 뒤는 참만 뒤에 뭐요래 타톡을 되게 동단적다 니디나게 총든 디 민가 조그는 송노래 탐지서라 동담 덴바 돈이 따라 니디요 말지 어떻게 가르치는 데 가려는 데네 자르고 주송나 된는 거예요 자와를 뭐지가 갈송인데 돈이는 간테 걸 말지 강한 컨트롤을 가라요 말지 대송들하고 주송 대통다 침벌에 대탐제들은 되니까 semnise 살쪄와라 체적가 살게면서 sem스만 나온 잡아도 세로래 나온 잡아도 맨 sem콩 내lok된 돌아 셉다 나과 체베 봐 종거리 돼 이제 말해서 받더니 대다들이 찍고는데 특이견에 들이다다 다들 좀 뭐처럼 김보를 때 공로가 요래 다 저러서 라는 걸만 개비치는 들이야 보리 다 대다 담지는 게 라는 책 양쪽 용을 떼서 이제 말해서 보면 돼 라가 또 항난이 상황이 토요래 제가 대바도 이서 정상에 메테래 대체 책송 같이 버리도 대처랑 생각들을 지요 주로 담제 대다가 토가다나 그래서 다 깨는 이상을 하지 마대 되는 제가 첨보요래 너 이상을 하고면 제가 가리 딱 가야 했지 가야 가리 따라오냐면 또뭐 따다다 나오처럼 냠니 타토가 또 먹고 쏘다래지
So, in the different classes of Tantra, of the new Tantric system, there are many different sadhanas, ways of practicing the deity. And on the ultimate level, however, even though there are so many different practices, what is the ultimate, the essence of all this practice? It is the rising of the 4 levels of joy or bliss. And so there are from my own personal understanding, so there in our tradition is an empowerment text called the 4 innate deities, or core emergent innate deities, and that is an empowerment text written by Rinchen Dorje, and it belongs to the new Tantric system. And the 4 deities that are included within the 4 innate deities is the Chakra Samvara, the Kala Chakra, the Guya Samaja, and the Hebatra. And this is also an empowerment that I often have given. And even though there are 4 different deities, the way in which they are practiced and their essence is the same. And so that is essential. We need to know how to practice them correctly. And so there is this set of 4 forces that are being interconnected. So on the outer level, we have 4 levels of attachment. On the inner level, these correspond to the 4 levels of joy. And then there is the path of the 4 yogas. And then there is the result of four kayas, and so on. And so all of these actually are interconnected and have one meaning. First, when you practice a Yidam deity with the different implements and the body color, even though there are so many, do not become confused by the multitude of different deities and their appearances. But just practice a single deity well, and the result will be attained, of the result of really accomplishing all the deities. And this is also mentioned in the Gongchik. So regarding the four classes of Tantra in the new Tantric system, so there is the basis of first there is the four levels of desire, then these are overcome through the path of the four yogas. And so then when one actually practices this path, then the four levels of joy or bliss arise. Regarding that, there's also a song of realization by Milarepa. And Milarepa had said that when one experiences the union of bliss and emptiness, is that not the instruction of the oral, whispering lineage? This instruction must be is an adornment of the four empowerments. So the four empowerments, what is the result of receiving the four levels of empowerments? So we are introduced to the path, and through the path we experience the four levels of joy. And as a result of that experience, we realize the four kayas. So that is the result that arises. So then also Milarepa said in that same song that when the mind, the thinking of the mind becomes exhausted, one then attain enlightenment in a single lifetime, and the mind kind of rests in its natural state, doesn't want to attain enlightenment in a single lifetime. This is the adornment of the four kayas, which is the result. And so we also practice the four kayas of the guru, which is connected to that result. So if you understand that, then you engage in the path, starting with, so on the outer level, we have said we have the four kinds of desire or attachment. Then on the inner level, we practice. We enter the path of the four yogas, whereby we experience the four levels of joy, or we can say we practice the four classes of Tantra on the inner level, and then on the secret level, we attain the four levels of joy, and then on the resultant level, we attain the four kayas, and so ultimately, so this is what Milarepa had shared. What is the ultimate result of practice? So each of these sets of four is interconnected. So ultimately, we reach the realization of the four kayas, or the guru's four kayas. And so first, when we receive the four empowerments, so how this is related to the four levels of empowerment, is that through the four empowerments, the path of these sets of fours is being opened up to us. When we receive four empowerments, we receive first the base empowerment, then the secret empowerment, then the wisdom awareness empowerment, and then the fourth word empowerment. So then through the empowerment, receiving the levels of empowerment, we are being introduced to the nature of the mind. So first, when we receive the base empowerment, we receive blessings, our bodies are being blessed or consecrated. Then when we receive the secret empowerment blesses our channels and subtle elements. And then the wisdom awareness empowerment blesses our mind. And then the fourth word empowerment is an introduction to the true nature of the mind. So all the various empowerments are included within these 4 empowerments. And then if one practices according to this introduction, then one realizes, as Milarepa had said, that one's mind is like space and pervades all of samsara and nirvana. Then also, Milarepa in the same song, he said that the clear appearance or the kind of increasing clarity of emptiness, one's realization of emptiness, is that not what we call the progression along the bhumis and the paths? That must be adorned with a kind of a road sign, kind of an indication. And so when we engage in practice, we must have certain indications or kind of landmarks or road signs that indicate that we are on track on our practice. So there is no benefit in just leaving it with outer explanations on the different classes of tantras, of the new tantric system and so on. But we also actually need to possess a certain indication or signs that we are actually on track on our practice. And with regard to that, it is said that a sign of hearing or a sign of learning is a peaceful and subdued behavior, or kind of conduct. And a sign of meditation, of practice, is an absence of afflictive emotions. Then also, Longchen Rabjam had said in the Mengakzö, the Treasury of Pith Instructions, he said that with great faith, give up all worldly concerns. Then what I say? One defeats all dualistic thinking by giving up like the negative, the influence by negative demons or demonic influences. So ultimately, when the result of what this is to show is that the result that has to arise as a result of any practice is to become free of dualistic thinking. And being free of dualistic thinking also involves a sense of contentment, basically feeling that anything is okay. Or as Tilopa also said, without a single thought, decisively look at your ultimate nature. So everything is really included within this. So ultimately, as a result, you should recognize non-duality. And so all dualistic thinking has to become purified. That is this quote from the Mengakzö, the Treasury of Pith Instructions, that I encourage you all to maybe read. And ultimately, this verse comes down to becoming free of dualistic thinking. But if you are free of dualistic thinking, a sign of being free of dualistic thinking is that you are fine with anything. There's no problem with anything. For example, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, I've heard him also saying that when one has really realized emptiness, then there is no more contradiction, meaning that one will be in agreement with everything and everyone. And that's actually very significant. And it relates to the verse that Milarepa had sung about that when mind itself or the thinking mind itself becomes exhausted, then isn't that the attainment of enlightenment within a single lifetime? So it means that the mind becomes free of this thought of me, and you see your true nature, which is like space. As also Milarepa had said, when you see that mind and space are indivisible, you have actualized the Dharmakaya. So regarding that, you can also ask questions to Drupon and also Khenpo, who are here. It's also very good that you ask your own lamas, your own gurus, questions. And so I'm just sharing really my own experience from how I have learned it. Because when I was in prison, the only thing that I really secretly could obtain is the 100,000 songs of Milarepa. And I have no other studies or learning really aside from that. But these songs are really most important. So I encourage you also to read them and and to apply these teachings to your own mind. And so all of these instructions and quotations we mentioned are connected to the generation stage practice of the Yidam deity. And so in brief, what again is the ultimate result? So what do we really practice when we practice a Yidam deity? What arises is the 4 levels of joy. And that is also connected to the practices of the channel, winds, and drops, the practice of Tummo. Of the 6 yogas of Naropa, the ultimate practice really is the practice of Tummo. Thank you everyone on the Sangha following us on the live stream.
sala gobayo. Shejeni me trashidele.